Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Simplified Basic Concepts. In this video, I'll be discussing about leadership. Prior to this video, I've discussed about directing, which is the fourth function of management. And leadership is one of the technique of directing, right? So leadership basically means the ability to influence others, to guide, to conduct or to direct the activities of others. Now let's take an example of an organization. In an organization there are many employees, and at times few employees have self-doubt that whether they'll be able to achieve their objectives or not. And there comes the role of leaders. These leaders provide the direction, they influence, they support the work of the subordinates so that they can achieve the objectives which have been given to them. So it's basically the ability to influence others so that they can actively achieve their objectives, right? Now leaders are required to develop future vision, to motivate the organizational members so that they can achieve their vision. Okay. Now the definition. Leadership is a process by which an executive can direct, guide and influence the behavior and work of others towards accomplishment of specific goals in a given situation. Now, according to Harold Kuhns, leadership is the art of influencing people so that they will strive willingly and enthusiastically towards the achievement of group goals. And according to Stockel, leadership is a situation and maintenance of structure in expectation and interaction. So in these definitions, we see basically that leadership is a process by which a person influences other so that the person can actively achieve its goal, right? So it's basically providing guidance to the person who at times have self-doubt that whether they'll be able to achieve their organizational goals or not. Clear? Now, ingredients of leadership, that is a leadership skill is compound of four major ingredients. That is, these four things are important for a person to have better and good leadership skill. The first one is the ability to use power effectively and responsibly. Secondly, the ability to understand that human beings have different motivation forces at different times in different situations. So accordingly, these motivational forces should be used. The third one is ability to inspire. And last one is ability to act in a manner that will develop a climate conducive to responding and arousing motivation. Okay. Now the features of leadership. The first is influence behavior. So this feature says that the leader should have the ability to influence the behavior of other person. Now if we take an example of an organization, then in an organization where the employees are working, the leader should have the ability to influence the behavior of the employee so that the employee should be able to achieve their goals in a better way. Right? The second one is interpersonal process. See, leadership is basically interpersonal process, that is a process which is between two persons. The first one is the leader and the second one is the follower. So there should be a very good understanding between the leader and the follower, and when there is a good understanding, then only the leader will be able to exercise leadership skills properly. The third one is attainment of common organizational goal. The purpose of leadership is to guide people in organization so that they work towards attainment of organizational goals, right? Fourth one is it is a continuous process. The leader keeps on providing guidance to the employees every time and whenever they require it, and it also keeps on monitoring them so that they make sure that the employees or the followers are not deviating from their goals. Then the next one is it is a group process that involves two or more people together interacting with each other. A leader cannot lead without followers, right? And the last one is it is dependent on situation. That is, there is no single best style of leadership which can be dealt or which can be used in all the situations. Depending on the situations, the leadership styles will change, which we will be discussing later on, right? In organization, we have seen that there are managers who keep on guiding and giving instructions to the employees who can achieve their organizational goal. And prior to this, we have discussed that leader should provide guidance or direct the employees to achieve their organizational goals. So what is the basic difference between a leader and a manager? So the first difference between leader and a manager is that a leader influences his subordinate to achieve a specified goal, whereas a manager manages the organization and is responsible for planning, directing, controlling and coordinating. So basically, manager is a hierarchical role which a person gets when he joins an organization. So this is a role which is provided to an individual as per his work in the organization. But a leader does not have to be always a senior or a manager. He can be among the employees, right? He can be of the same profile. Leader basically means any person who has the ability to influence the behavior of other person so that the other person is ready to listen to what the leader is saying. So the leader is basically not a hierarchical role. It is the characteristic of a person which he possesses and by which he influences and directs the behavior of other person, right? The leader sets the direction, whereas a manager plans the details. Leader has followers and the manager has the employees. As I discussed earlier, that manager is basically a hierarchical role in the organization. So under a manager, there will be different hierarchies as per the organizational structure, and there the employees will be working. But a leader will have followers, that is the people who will listen to the leader will become the followers of the leader, right? Now the leader basically uses transformational leadership style and a manager uses transactional leadership style. Transformational leadership style and transactional leadership style we'll cover up later in this video. Leaders promotes changes, whereas managers react to the changes which occur in the organization. Leaders facilitates, that is makes easy to take decision, right? And managers make decision. So leader himself doesn't take a decision, whereas he makes it easier for his followers so that they can take the decision easily. Whereas a manager makes the decision and the employees are compelled, bound to follow it, right? Now, importance of leadership. The first one is that a leader is an initiator. He's a motivator. He builds confidence of the employees. He creates a congenial work environment in the organization. He creates successors and he induces changes. Now, before the work actually starts, a leader takes initiative and communicates the policies and plans to the subordinates about the work. That's why a leader is said to be an initiator. Leader motivates the employees, and at times, if their position permits, the leader can also give financial and non-financial incentives so that the work can be done efficiently. So basically, a leader motivates the employees, right, so that the employee can do their work efficiently and effectively. A leader builds confidence in the employees. He resolves complaints and problems of the employees so that the employees have confidence in the organization that they are being heard. Okay. Then the next one is he builds up work environment. In case of conflicts, the leader always listens to the point of view of the employees, handles them carefully so that it doesn't adversely affect the organization. So here, the leader doesn't keep on forcing his own decision on the employees, but he hears the point of view of other employees too, and based on the situation, the decisions is being given. So here the employees basically feel that they are being heard in the organization, which creates a congenial work environment in the organization, right? So that's the basic role of the leader, to create a congenial work environment so that the employees can very easily achieve their organizational goal, right? Now, a leader trains his subordinate in such a manner subordinate can succeed the leader's role in future in case of leader's absence, right? So here the leader basically creates successors so that in future, if the leader is not in that position, his subordinate can take up his roles and can manage things easily. Okay, the next one is leader induces change. That is, a leader persuades, clarifies and inspires employees to accept any change in the organization without much resistance and discontentment. Now, it's said that people generally are not in favor of changes, whether it's in their work environment or anywhere. But the role of leader is that he keeps on clarifying the entire thing so that the employees positively take up the changes in the organization without much resistance. Okay. Now, the leadership theories. Leadership theory studies the qualities of a good leader. These theories basically explain why and how certain people become leader. Right. So there are 4 major leadership theory, which is great man theory, trait theories, behavioral theories and contingency theories. Now, great man theory and trait theory comes under traditional theories of leadership, right? The great man theory is very simple theory. Now, great man theory is also called as charismatic theory. Early research on leadership was based on the study of people who were already great leaders, right? And this theory assumed that the leaders are born and not made. So basically, the people who are already great leaders, study was done on them and it was assumed that leaders are born and they cannot be made. So some people have those inborn qualities which make them leaders. This was said by great man theory or charismatic theory. Now, these leaders inspire their followers through their personal vision and energy, right? So according to great man theory, leaders should have certain qualities like charm, persuasiveness, commanding personality, high degree of intuition, judgment, courage, intelligence, aggressiveness, action orientation, etc., which are of such nature that they cannot be taught or learnt, right? So these things should be inborn in a person. If a person by birth, inborn means by birth, right? So if a person has these qualities, then he can be a leader. But if certain person lacks these characteristics, then he cannot be a leader. This was said by great man theory or charismatic theory of leadership, right? Now, second comes trait theories, which is also called as personality theories. It is a modification of great man theory, okay, which says that leadership qualities or traits can be acquired. They need not always be inborn, right? Now, great man theory, what it said, that there are certain qualities or traits which should be present in a person to become a leader, and these qualities and traits cannot be acquired. It should be inborn. That is, it should be present by birth in a person. But trait theory says that no, it is not necessary. Leadership qualities can be acquired by a person. So the trait theory of leadership states that there are certain identifiable qualities or characteristics that are unique to leaders, and those good leaders possess such qualities to some extent. So leadership qualities may be inborn or they may be acquired through training and practice. Successful leaders have interest, abilities and personality traits that are different from those of less effective leaders. Okay, so these traits are not solely responsible to become or to make a person leader, but yes, essentially these can be seen as preconditions that provide people with certain leadership potential. Clear? So basically, theory or personality theory says that there are certain identifiable qualities or characteristics which should be present in a leader, and these characteristics, trait means characteristics, right? These characteristics can either be acquired or it can be inborn in a person. Okay. Now, few traits that differentiates leader from non-leaders are the desire to lead. Leaders have a strong desire to influence and lead others. They show willingness to take responsibility for the acts which they have done. Whether it is right or wrong, they will take up the responsibility for the work which they have done. That shows the true characteristic of a leader. The second one is honesty and integrity. Leaders build a trusting relationship with their followers by showing high consistency between the word what they say and the work what they do, right? Third one is self-confidence. Leaders need to show self-confidence to convince their followers about their goals and decisions when the followers have self-doubt. So when the followers are doubtful about themselves, then leaders need to show self-confidence so that the followers are convinced and they can easily achieve their goals. The next one is intelligence. A leader needs to be intelligent enough to gather, synthesize and interpret large amount of information to solve problems and to make correct decisions. And the last one is job relevant knowledge. Effective leaders have a high degree of in-depth knowledge which allows them to make well-informed decisions and to understand the implications of those decisions. So these were the few qualities or the few traits that differentiates between a leader and a non-leader, and if a person has these characteristics by birth, then okay, yes, he can be a good leader. And if a person in his life can acquire these characteristics, then again he can be a leader, right? Now, the difference between great man theory and trait theory, though it's very simple, but at times students get confused between it. That's why I've mentioned it clearly that great man theory of leadership suggests that great leaders are born and they cannot be made. Right? So great man theory simply says that great leaders are born because they have those inborn qualities in them and they cannot acquire those qualities during their lifetime. Whereas the trait theory says that leadership qualities can be acquired. However, a good leader has certain characteristics that allow learning the skills to be much easier. Okay? Now the next one is behavioral theory. Behavioral theory of leaderships are based upon the belief that great leaders are made and not born. The leaders basically show certain behavior that differentiates them from the non-leaders. Right? So behavioral theory says that a leader uses technical, conceptual and human skills to influence the behavior of his subordinate or follower. So people can learn certain behavior to become leader through observation. Now this is the basic crux behind the leadership development programs. We have leadership development programs, so what is done in it? Basically the focus is to change the behavior of a person, and if people learn certain behavior, then he can become a good leader, right? Because leadership is all about influencing, motivating and directing your subordinates or followers. Okay, so if certain behaviors are learned by a person, then he can become a good leader. This is said by behavioral theory. Okay, thus behavioral theory says that leadership behaviors can be taught. Okay. Now, leaders need to perform two major functions to be effective. The first is task-oriented function and the second is people-oriented function. Task-oriented function says that these functions provide solutions to the problems faced by the group in performing any job or activity. So here the leader emphasizes more on the job or the task and on better utilization of the resources so that the productivity can be increased. And in people-oriented function relate to actions of mediating, dispute and ensuring that individuals feel valued by the group. So here the leaders emphasizes more on the relationship with people associated on the job. They believe in the quality of people with the quality of the relationship with their subordinates, right? So leaders need to perform two major functions, which are task-oriented function and people-oriented function. In task-oriented function, they need to emphasize on the job or the tasks that is to be done, and in people-oriented function, they need to focus on the people who will be performing that job, right? So these two aspects need to be taken care by the leader. Now there are certain behavioral theories of leadership, which is Ohio State University Leadership Studies, Michigan University Leadership Studies, Likkert's 4 System of Management and Managerial Grid. Now I'll discuss these theories in my next video, right? Contingency theory. According to contingency theory of leadership, no leadership style or a leader is best in all situations. The success of a leadership style or a leader depends upon a number of variables, which means that a leadership style that is effective in some situation may not be successful in others. Right? So the certain factors come into play that define whether a particular leader or leadership style will be effective for a given situation. And those factors are the task which is being given, the personality of the leader, and the composition of the group that is meant to be led, that is the followers. Now, depending upon these factors and several other factors, decision is to be taken which leadership style should be applied in that particular situation. So here in this theory, the basic assumption is that leadership's success or failure is situational, right? A leadership style which is successful in one situation may not be successful, or it can be a failure in other situation. Okay, and the contingency theories of leadership are Fiedler's contingency model, situational leadership theory, Robert Howe's path goal theory, Hershey and Blackard model. Now this again I'll be discussing in my next video. Now let's move on to the leadership styles. Now, different leadership styles are autocratic style, participative style, democratic style, free rein style, transactional leadership style, and transformational leadership style. The first one, authoritarian or autocratic style of leadership. Here the leaders tell their subordinates how and what work they want to be get done. In authoritarian or autocratic style, the leaders basically tell everything to their subordinates. That is, they give directions to their subordinates what they have to do and how they have to do. So it works well if the leader is competent and has knowledge about each and everything, so that he can take decisions about each and every details, right? So in this style of leadership, all the decisions are centralized. That is, all the decisions taken is at the center by the leader himself. The followers or the subordinates simply have to follow the decisions of the leader. No suggestions or initiatives from the subordinates or followers are acceptable here. There is complete control on the subordinates or the followers by the leader. Okay. Now here in this autocratic style of leadership, there is one-way communication. This unprofessional style of leading by threats, that is by threatening the follower or the subordinate, leading by this way is known as bossing people around. Now this style is best suited when the leader, as I mentioned earlier, has all the information and the employees are unskilled and uneducated. So in this case, the leader will give all the informations, all the instructions on how to do things and what to do, and the employees or the subordinates or the follower simply have to follow what their leader is saying, right? The second one is participative or democratic style of leadership. This style is also known as consultative, empowerment, joint decision making, democratic leadership style, and power sharing style of leadership. Now here a participative leader involves everybody, that is the subordinates, peers, superiors, and other stakeholders in the process of decision making. So this style is used when the employees are knowledgeable and skillful. So the leader to have knowledge and the employees also have the knowledge. So the authority here lies with both, that is it's decentralized. It's not concentrated, or only the leader doesn't have all the authorities. The authority here is decentralized, that is the employees too have the authority to make decisions. So here the leaders take subordinates into confidence about what to do and how to do in decision making. This style can be divided into two, that is one where the leader consults, and the second style is where decision is taken through consensus. Consensus means joint consent of all the stakeholders, subordinates, peers, and superiors. Okay, now this style of leadership keeps the team spirit and morale high, as the team members feel that their opinions are valued by their leader. Okay. Now the next one is paternalistic style. Here the leader assumes that his function is fatherly or paternal, so all the decisions are taken by the leader as a parent. The relationship between the leader and his group is same as the relationship between head of the family and members of the family, right? So we have seen in every family that head of the family is the person who takes the major decisions, Though he'll be hearing the point of view of all the family members, but the decision taking power lies with the head of the family. Okay, so as the head of the family, he provides its subordinates with good working condition and fringe benefits, and it is assumed that the workers will work harder out of gratitude. Okay, so this style of leadership was successful in Japan and has been still widely prevalent in small firms in India. Paternalistic approach is unlikely to work with mature employees, as no freedom is given to subordinates in decision making. So this paternalistic style says that the leader assumes himself as the father figure or head of the family, and he treats other employees or subordinates as the other members of the family and expects them that if the leader will provide good working condition, it will provide fringe benefits to the subordinates, then the subordinates or the worker will work harder out of gratitude. Now this concept is hard to be followed when the employees are mature enough. Okay, is laissez-faire or free rein style. Now laissez-faire simply means non-interference in the affair of others. So here the leaders does not lead, it leaves the entire group by itself. So such leaders basically give maximum freedom to their subordinates. That's why it's called as free rein. That is giving maximum freedom to the subordinates. The subordinates have the authority in deciding the policies and methods. Since a leader cannot do everything, so he prioritizes the work and delegates maximum tasks to the subordinates. So this leadership style is used when the leader has full trust and confidence in the abilities of the subordinates and the subordinates are well educated. Okay, so in participative style we saw that subordinates are being involved in decision making. There is decentralized authority, but yes, the leader has the final say. But in this situation, the leader gives maximum freedom to the subordinates. He delegates maximum work to his subordinates because a leader or a person cannot do everything on its own. Okay. Then comes transactional style of leadership. In 1947, this style was first proposed by Max Weber, followed by Bernard Bass in the year 1981. So transactional leadership is also known as management leadership, which is a leadership style that lays emphasis on the transaction between a leader and its subordinate. The transactional leadership ensures that routine work is done reliably. Here the objectives and goals are all predefined. So the transactional style of leadership focuses basically on improving the current situation of the organization by framing and controlling the organizational activities. Basic purpose of this leadership style is to revamp the existing corporate culture and to enhance the current policies and procedures. Here the leader uses his authority and responsibility as his power. This style basically has a very formal approach, and rewards and punishment are the two primary tools that are employed by the leader to inspire his subordinates. Okay, so transactional leadership style, also known as management leadership, basically focuses on the routine work of the organization, how that can be improved, how organizational objectives and the goals can be predefined, and how that can be achieved by the employees. Okay. The transformational leadership style, as its name suggests, is the style of leadership which becomes a reason for the transformation in the subordinate. Transformation means change. In this style, the leader works with the subordinates to ascertain the desired change in the organization. Now, this leadership style was proposed by James McGregor, right, in 1978. So we saw that transactional style of leadership simply says that day-to-day work of the organization, how that can be dealt in a better way. And transformational style of leadership talks about the changes that can be done in the organization. Okay, transformational leaders look after the initiative that adds value. Here the leader uses his influencing power and enthusiasm to motivate the followers so that the followers or the subordinates can go for the desired changes in the organization in a positive direction. Here the leader finds the requirement for a change in the existing organization culture, gives a vision to the subordinates, incorporates mission and implements the change. right? So it's very simple. Transformational leadership means if the leader finds that there is requirement of any change in the present organization, then that change should be brought in the organization. And as we discussed earlier, that human beings' natural tendency is that they resist change. So in the same way, employees working in an organization to resist any change that occurs in the organization. So here, transformational leaders basically paves the path for this changes in the organization. They convince the employees, they motivate the subordinates, incorporates mission and gives vision to the subordinates so that the subordinates can implement the change which is required in the organization. So here the leader basically acts as a role model and motivator who offers vision, encouragement, morale and satisfaction to the followers, because here the followers need to believe that whatever change will come in the organization will be good for them, and these changes will not take anything positive from the employees which they are getting now, right? So the leaders inspire subordinates to increase their capabilities and abilities, build up self-confidence and promote innovation in the whole organization, right? So as its name says, transformational leadership means a leader goes for transformation or change, and transactional leadership means a leader who motivates so that the employees can do their routine job in a better way, right? Now, when I was discussing about the difference between leader and manager, I said that the leaders follow transformational leadership style and a manager follows or uses transactional leadership style. Now, I hope this is clear that a leader following transformational leadership style means a leader goes for change leadership style. That is, they try to bring the required change in the organization. They motivate the employees in such a way that the employees or the subordinates are positive to go for those required changes in the organization, right? But a manager doesn't follow transformational style of leadership. He always follows transactional style of leadership, which means that he ensures that his employees do their routine job in a better way. Clear? Now, the difference between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. Now, transactional leadership style employs rewards and punishment for motivating the followers. Okay, so to do day-to-day routine jobs, what will a leader do? He will give rewards or he will punish the employees so that the followers or the employees or the subordinates can achieve their goals in a better way. But in transformational leadership styles, the leader employs his charisma and enthusiasm to inspire the followers. Okay. In transactional leadership style, leaders lay emphasis on his relationship with the followers. But in transformational leadership style, leaders lay emphasis on the values, ideals, morals, and needs of the followers, right here. So in transformational style of leadership, the followers are in the center, who's being noticed more, whose needs are being emphasized more. Whereas in transactional style of leadership, the relationship with the followers are being given more importance. In transactional leadership, leadership is responsive, whereas in transformational leadership style, leadership is proactive. Proactive means beforehand deciding what to do and how to do. So to bring changes, a leader here needs to be proactive so that he can beforehand analyze the entire thing and can accordingly do things so that the employees do not feel that the change will bring out certain negativities or will take positive things from the present system which they are following. Okay, transactional leadership style is done in a settled environment. It goes for settled environment, that is, environment of the organization is not changed. Only day-to-day routine work is followed. But in transformational style of leadership, the environment is turbulent, because whenever there is a change, maximum things in the organization changes, right? So the environment of the organization itself becomes turbulent. In transactional style of leadership, works within the existing organizational culture and never deviates from it. Whereas in transformational style of leadership, it constantly seeks to improve the organizational culture with new ideas. So here, everything new, a change is thought to be brought. Now, the difference between autocratic leadership style democratic and free reign leadership style. In autocratic leadership style, the leaders use their coercive power, that is they compel their subordinates, and they lead by the ability to give punishment or rewards. Whereas in democratic leadership style, the leaders consult with their subordinates on the proposed actions and decisions and encourage the participation of their subordinates. And in free reign leadership style, it provides maximum freedom to the subordinates in their day-to-day activity, in their operations. Autocratic leaders are not willing to hear and consider subordinates' ideas and suggestions when a decision is to be made. In democratic style of leadership, leaders does not take action without subordinates. They consult the subordinate before decision making. And in free reign leadership style, leaders exercise minimal, that is least control, gives the worker a high degree of independence in decision making. Okay, so with this we come to the end of topic leadership, and in my next video I'll be taking up contingency theory in details and behavioral theory in details. So do like and subscribe my channel, which is Simplified Basic Concepts. Thank you.